Yes, yes. Hotep, Hotep, Hotep. And we're live. So Hotep, ETM Hotep, actually. Welcome and peace. This is your brother Wujao, Rennie Wujao, Menew Ma'at. And you are tuned in to the Seshu Mighty Metal Netcher. If you're tuned in now, and if you're watching in the archives, you already know where you are. You're on the Seshu Ma'ani Metal Netcher YouTube channel. All right. So see, we already have brother Donnie is in the building. Ni Wasara is in the building. Hotep, peace. So I guess the notification is really working. um, really appreciate everyone who tunes in to our live sessions. And we've been having some very good live sessions. So make sure you definitely check out the archives. And I will forewarn you that a lot of our live sessions as of late have been long. And so, if you're familiar with us, even though our sessions are long, there are a lot of takeaways coming out of there. So, if you just you can watch a bit, pause it, stop it, watch some more later, or whatever the case is. I try to keep them bite size, at least 2 hours or less. But sometimes we'll go way over. Like I believe last night we had a live session that was 5 hours, 5 hours plus. And then another one before that, it was well over 2 hours. And so yeah, it happens. So and plus we've been having pretty much open discussions, which are really, really good. People, when we first started, people were contacting me, telling me to keep it up. They enjoy open discussions because we try to pick a topic that will anchor the entire live session, when we go live. But then, we float around a bit. So we usually come with a main topic, an anchored topic, and then we can veer off a bit here and there. But I will say, last night we definitely went down a rabbit hole, and I'm of the mind to start a whole series called Rabbit Hole Thursdays, because we definitely went down a rabbit hole and then some, a rabbit hole, anthill, you name it, a beaver dam. We went through everything last night. So check out the show last night. I think it was almost 6 hours, right? So I'm gonna post the link. Oh, actually, I need to switch. So I'm gonna post the link, but give a shout out. Someone in the chat, please let me know and confirm that you can hear me, if I'm loud and clear while I switch over. And there we are. So I'm gonna post this link. So for those of you who are new to the channel, by the way, share the link. If you know anybody who's interested in the topics that we talk about, then by all means, share the link with them and, put them up on our conversations and what we deal with and how we deal with what we deal with. And because that's just as important as well. We keep it professional. We don't get into the immature, noisy things like that. It's worked out very, very, very well because you know I I don't really tolerate the immature noise, because if two people are going to argue without any regard for the listening audience or the reading audience or what have you, then those two people might as well just get on the phone and talk to each other, or go into each other's inbox. But when you go live and you argue and you forget about the people who may be listening and things, then it defeats the purpose. Like what's the point? So I'm adamantly against any and all of those things. So I don't tolerate that, and we don't have that here. Okay, so that's just a general norm, and it should be the norm everywhere. All right, at least if you expect to get any benefit out of these conversations. So anyway, like I said, Rennie Wujao, my name is Wujao, and welcome to the channel. So I do have a few on the panel with me so far. And the link, let me actually pin it. The link, the panel link, I posted it in the chat. So everyone is invited. You know, we can get up to 100 people in here on the panel. And you know, I encourage interaction, engagement. That's what you know I'm pushing for. But it's okay if you know you don't want to come in and you want to type in the chat. But as a heads up, I'm gonna apologize ahead of time. I can't watch the chat the whole time, and so sometimes people would type things thinking that I see it, and I don't. So I apologize ahead of time for that. I try to scroll up a bit when I do, and then I can address some things or somebody on the panel. It may not be directed to me, maybe directed to someone else. So I'm gonna pass the mic and let everyone else on the panel so far introduce yourselves, and then we could just jump in.
Hotepu, Red E Imiket. And that means my name is Imiket. And yeah, welcome to the show. And I will definitely try to help Rajao and keep an eye on the chat for any questions that might come along. But welcome.
Good evening, family. This is Brother Chris.
Uh-oh. You know it's gonna be a special night when Chris bring his radio commentating voice out. Good evening, family. This is the Brother Chris. You're welcome. You're tuned in to WKMT the Black Radio. Kemet is a Black land radio. And then you just cue the music. Oh boy. So all right, so we're just gonna jump in. I'm trying to buy a little time for people to tune in who do get notified that we're live. And if you haven't subscribed already, shame on you. Make sure you subscribe. And if you enjoy these conversations, then you know express that by clicking, you know, thumbing the video up or whatever, and comment. You know, I need to start actually paying attention to the comments, not in the chat itself, but the comments under the video. You know, I need to actually go back through some of the videos and see if there's any comments that need to be, you know, addressed and things like that. I can't neglect the comment section because we have it turned on, so we might as well use it. And listen, and if you like the show a whole lot or what have you, super chat is turned on. Okay, I believe it is. And that's a shame. I don't know because we don't use it. Nobody uses it. So you know we don't sit here and try to coerce people to use the super chat and do all this and that. But if you feel like it, then hey, I can say this, that any support that we get or that this channel gets, all of it, we are working on projects. Like me myself, I am personally working on completing a grammar textbook, and it's long overdue. I was supposed to have it published by now. And I can easily blame it on the pandemic, COVID, and things, but I won't do that because really, no excuse, because I've actually should have had it out prior to the pandemic coming along, but because of the pandemic, I definitely had to put that to the side. You know, had to rearrange, you know, how we do things because of the shutdowns and things last year, whatever the case is. So, but any contributions and support are going towards projects, and so I named that one that I'm working on personally, but also we are working on expanding sabreuniversity.com website with more lessons, and we want to make the lessons, you know, video orientated and try to keep them a very, very minimal price or whatever, or even free and things. So any support helps out with that. And then as a collective, as a group, we are working on other projects, other books and articles and things like that. So, and if you're familiar with writing more like a research material, it takes resources that you have to get. You have to surveys what scholars are saying. So you got to buy tons of books and things like that. And all that stuff costs in general. And so any support, we always put it in the war chest, the bucket, and to keep things going. Along with that, I would like to see a cohesive formation of like-minded individuals, getting together to progressively walk through the study of Egyptian culture, not to romanticize it, not to pretend that people are the Egyptians or anything like that. It's for those who are interested in the culture and want to learn about it for whatever their reasons are. But most people that I find who are interested in it at that level, they want to really learn the genius of the people of that once lived in the Nile Valley and Delta area. And so want to kind of organize that in a very, very, well-defined and organized way. And so that project is actually underway. So, again, any and all support will go towards all of those things. So having said that, and Miket or Chris, you got anything? Nope.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Oh no, I just saw on a chat that Donnie said that it's not turned on. So I guess that's the super chat. So we'll sort that out. But yeah, on another time, because yeah, we definitely never use that. So we'll sort out that for the next time.
Okay. All right. So now here's the topic. So now this is kind of open discussion. So again, click the link if you want to come on the panel. You come on the panel at any point in the conversation. You can go get your cup of tea, get your snacks, get your fruit snacks because it's late. I don't advocate people snacking. Snacking is really not good for you. But if you're gonna snack or whatever, let's let it be have heavy water content, which is fruit and everything. But anyway, get your tea, get your whatever, and you come sit down, chill. So the first thing I do want to cover in this session is actually a very, very quick revisit or overview of a presentation that I did last year. I think it was March of last year, 2020. And this was involving the mechanics of language. And what inspired that conversation was the constant observation that, or things that I've observed where people really don't know what language actually is, or the idea of communication, the goal or purpose of communication itself. And so I slowed that conversation down and walked through and did a whole presentation. And you can find that in our archives. It's called a quick lesson on the mechanics of language. And I believe that we can get the link posted in the chat. So anyway, I just want to do a quick revisit of it, because what's inspired me to do this is kind of like the same thing that's crept up from the first time that made me do it in the first place. All right. So just want to kick things off with that. And let me just make sure my screen is on spotlight. So can you all see my screen? Just want to make sure.
Do.
All right, nice big front center. Okay, so anyway, by the way, that's the Scribe Institution. That's our logo, the home of the aspiring scribes of divine words. Sesh, Ma'ani, Medew, Netcher. All right, Medew, Netcher. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of go quickly through these slides that I did before. And so again, the title of this presentation was A Quick Lesson, The Mechanics of Language. And it's March 23rd, actually, have the date there, 2020. And yeah, don't forget that we also have a website, seshmedunetcher.com. All right. And that website is we wanted to be, and we got to really get back on it, to be like a one-stop shop for all things dealing with the learning of ancient Egyptian writing system and language, in terms of resources, and having student transliteration, translations, articles addressing major repetitive topics that come up, so you'll find some articles on there like the dinosaurs in Kemet, aliens in Kemet, the flying crafts in the temple, the whether Egypt had electricity, light bulbs, and all of that other good stuff. So we have seshmetalnetcher.com. And then also we have saberuniversity.com. And Saber University, notice the word Sabah or Saba, which is the word for basically it's the word that's common to words that mean instruction, student, teacher, and all of those good things. Sebait, Sabat, Sabah, Sabati, all those words have everything to do with being a student or some kind of learning. And so we have the learning university basically. So saberuniversity.com is where we have our classes, self-paced classes. The beginners introduction to Sesh Metal Netcher class is there. You can sign up and register. And then there's other free short lessons that have quizzes to them. And, when you complete it, you get a certificate of completion and so on and so forth. So we're going to expand that, but don't forget that website. And we got to really put attention on both of those websites. And here's some of the publications of the past. The beginner's textbook, the rebuttal book, and I'm just saying the short versions of the rebuttal book. The grammar book is up and coming. I'm working on that. Actually, the cover is not even, doesn't look like that anymore. And then the last book is the penmanship book. All right. So so 3 of those books are available. They're on Amazon.com. So, make sure you have them. If you don't have them, shame on you. Shame, 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 shame. All right. So we're going to get into a very quick revisit. So I'm going to read a couple of slides. I'm going to stop on a few of these and just read through them. All right. So we're going to start off with communication itself. And notice under I have the successful sharing or making concepts common. That's what actually communication means. All right. So just reading. The goal of language is to transmit meaning from one person to another or one to many. Concepts or meaning must be clothed in a form, and that form is either in sounds or in writing. But it must be clothed in a form in order to be transmitted. Okay, so what is language? A language is a system of signs. Okay, so remember that. If you don't remember anything else, language is a system of signs. So now we have to ask the question, what is a sign? All right, now I'm not talking about a stop sign or, a yield sign or what have you, even though that there is some relation to that. But what are linguistic signs? So notice on the screen, I have 3 items: form, meaning, and link. So all 3 of these is what makes up a sign. Okay, so the form, what is a form? Form is, another word for form is the signifier. And this form is either a sound pattern, which is what you hear, or a written pattern, which is what you see. So the form deals with our 2 senses, sight and hearing and seeing. Okay. Meaning is the signified, and that is the concept. And the very word concept means to grasp in the mind. Okay. So this is not tangible. This is not observable. The form is. The form is observable in the form of hearing something or seeing something. Okay. And so these 2 elements must be linked or glued together. And that's the link up here. So the form and the meaning glued together is what a sign is. All right. This is very, very straightforward, but it's just something that we don't directly get taught this way. All right. So just keep following. So that brings us to successful communication. And like I said, what inspired me to do this the first time was so much miscommunication is happening. A lot of arguments, about 90+% of arguments and disagreements are a result of miscommunication. It's not even the result of something real. It's just a misfire or a miscommunication. So anyway, successful communication, what is that? Successful communication occurs when person A encodes meaning into a form and transmits it to person B. Okay. Then person B has to take that transmitted meaning after it's been clothed and then decode the form to extract the meaning. And then person B receives it from person A. All right. So let me go back. So communication involves taking meaning, clothing it in a form, which means you have to take a concept that you have grasped in your mind. You have to give it clothing, which is a sound pattern or something written, and then glue it together and then send it. And you send it to person B. Person B has to go in reverse. Person B has to take the form that's glued and then extract the meaning. And if that's done successfully, now you have communication. If that's not done, that's not communication. See, just because you make noise out of your mouth, just because sounds come out of your mouth and you're directing it to someone, if there's not a meeting of the mind, then that is not communication. So let's be clear. Communication is the successful transmission of meaning, not just the talk, not just because you're talking. That's not communication. And that's for, maybe, relationship counselors need to take these lessons or whatever, so they could explain what communication is to couples. All right, but let's continue. Now, remember I said language is a system of signs, and we have it here. Language is a system of signs. So an entire language is a system of signs. So now let's say that in reverse. When we name a language, and let's just use English. When we say the English language, what are we really saying? We are categorizing a group of signs, a system of signs, and we're labeling it as English. And then there's a population of people that have those signs in their mind, and therefore they can communicate to one another successfully. And we call those people English speakers. And we call the community of people an English speaking community. That's a speech community of English. So here's an example of an English sign. So right here we have the word, and I'm going to spell it because it's written on the screen that you can see. ELEPHANT. So that's the form it's in. Now, if I pronounce it, which is this top portion, these slashes here, just as a FYI, when you're in linguistic discussions and things, there's certain notations that mean certain things, and when you see the forward slashes, you're talking about phones or phonemes specifically. All right, and so when you see this we're talking about sound at that point. So anyway, this word visibly is pronounced elephant. So this is the pronunciation, elephant. Now, on the meaning side, on the concept side, this is what is in your mind. Okay. This creature here, this animal. So this animal and this sound or this form glued together becomes the English sign. All right. And you need them both. Now here's what's interesting. The form is not the object itself. And I say this all the time. The word elephant is not the elephant itself. It's simply a form that's used as a as we say it, as I showed you here, is the signifier that triggers the signified, and it calls up the concept in your mind. So if somebody says the word elephant, that sound pattern, elephant, this is what's going to trigger in your mind. So the signifier and the signified. All right, so let's keep going. So this is an English sign. Okay, so keep that in mind, English sign. Now, it looked like the screen didn't change, right? Well, guess what it did. So now we're dealing with a Kiswahili sign. Now, the Kiswahili sign is different than the English sign, only in form. So in Kiswahili, this conceptualization in the person's mind is linked or glued to this form. It's spelled Ndovu, and it's pronounced Ndovu. Ndovu. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ndovu. This is the form that matches this concept. So this is a Swahili sign. Now let's give another example of a different sign. Now we have a different system of signs, which is we call a language, the Luo. So notice that the concept is the same, or this conceptualization here is the same, but now the form changed. So it's spelled Liech, and it's pronounced Liech. Liech. All right. And last one. Do another. Oh, well, that's not the last one. Those three. So here are all three of them together. So we have elephant, Ndovu, and Liech. Well, guess what? All of these different signs, one, that's the English one, Swahili, and Duluo, they only change form, but the form is glued to the same concept between the three. Okay. And it's because of this phenomenon that we have, or we're able to do what we call translation, to translate. Because the act of translating is really the act of matching concepts to forms from one language to another, a source language to a target language. So now we can say the English elephant, the English sign elephant, it translates to the Swahili sign Ndovo, or the Duluo sign Liech. So now, and in short, people say, well, elephant or Ndovo means elephant. And when we say that, we're actually incorrect, but what we actually mean is that Nduvu as a sign is equal to, or can be equalized to, equated with the English sign elephant. But Ndovu does not mean elephant. Remember, meaning is on this side. It's just that we're saying Ndovo means elephant, which means that this same concept is matching the English form, and we say elephant. All right. So technically, we would not be correct, but we know it. That's not a deal breaker when people do say that. Okay. But this is why and how we can translate things. And I'll give you another example. When we say the Spanish word casa, and we say it means house. No, what's really going on is that the Spanish sign casa, it matches a concept of a square building with windows, doors, and a roof or whatever. and it matches the English sign house. So we say casa equals house. Spanish casa equals English house. All right. So, and this is what I'm saying here. So, what is translation? Translation is the communication of meaning of a source language text or speech by means of an equivalent target language text or speech. Translation depends on knowledge of two or more languages. And remember, what is language again? The system of signs. So here's the thing. If you are attempting to translate anything, you have to have knowledge of two or more languages to do it, because you have to be familiar with the system of signs of the source language and the system of signs of the target language in order to play matchmaker. And remember, a translator is plays the role of Cupid, matchmaking. It's almost like a translator owns a dating app and just matching signs, matching signs. That's what a translator does. That's what translation is. So we have Liech, Duluo, Ndovo, Swahili, and elephant in English. All of these match. So we can translate these forward and backward. All right. I'm trying to see. Okay. I don't want to go too far off because, like I said, I did a whole full presentation with all of the nuts and bolts of this, and I'm only going over a few of these slides. But I think I made that point. And again, the point here is as far as the role of the importance of communication and what it is. Communication is the successful, and that's the key word, the successful transmission of meaning from one person to another, or from one person to many. Like right now, as I'm talking right now, I'm talking to more than one person. You all are listening. And so communication is only occurring if there's a successful encoding and decoding, encoding on my part and decoding on your part. And if that occurs, there is no argument. Even if the communication is successful and whatever the person is communicating is 100% wrong, that is when you have a true argument. Because the argument will be void of emotion. See, people, when people think of the word argument, they think of fussing, getting loud, being very emotionally driven and things like that. No, an argument is not that. Just look up what arguments are. We make arguments out to be that way, but it's not. So what's really happening is miscommunication. So the emotional part of what we would call arguments, we need to stop. That's really fussing and verbal fighting, because it's driven by emotion. And here's the thing: people often ask me, and I go on shows or I go live myself and stuff, and people will come and people would ask me, how do I have the patience I have or tolerate stuff that I do, or that they think I do, and everything. And to me, it's nothing, because I understand communication. Like I don't get buttons pushed, because I understand how communication works and the domain it belongs to, which is the domain of logic and et cetera. But I'm not going to get into that right now. So, hopefully that point, I only want to talk about that, but in the presentation I went on, I'll go a little further. So let's talk about this real quick, because I think this is important. Homonyms. Okay. Homonyms, if you're unfamiliar with homonyms come from two words, homo and onym, which is a noun or name, and then homo meaning same. Okay. Not homo as in sexual orientation and all that stuff. Homo meaning the same. All right. So out of the homonyms, we have homophones and homographs. Homophones, you hit it, you see that word phone, that means sound. You see the word graph, that means something written. So homophones are things that sound alike, and homographs are things that look alike, that are written alike, spelled alike. Okay. So with this same setup here, we have form, meaning, and a link between the two for English signs. So now here's a homophone. Excuse me, yes, it's a homophone and a homograph together. So we have the form left and the form left. The same exact form, spelled the same, pronounced the same, left, left. But one of these has the meaning of past tense of leave. The other one has the meaning of the opposite of right. So these are actually two different signs. Two different signs. But they're homonymic, or in other words, they're homophones, they're homographs, both. All right. So I'm just saying, I'm just showing you what this phenomena is and that it exists. All right. So it doesn't mean that these are the same at all. Doesn't mean that they came from the same whatever or anything like that. And all languages have homonyms of some sort. For example, in Rani Kemet, the language of ancient Kemet, the word Ankh, people, assume that the word Ankh, there's only one meaning. It means life. That sound pattern, Ankh, when we say Ankh, that it only means life. But no, there's other words with the same sound pattern, Ankh. Okay. Now, the inspiration behind homonyms existing in a particular language could be from a different list of reasons. One could be borrowing, converging of different languages, sharing lexicon and over time, or through time in the same language. We could have semantic pathways of a word that meant one thing originally, but then kind of veer off in a nuanced way to the point where they separate so much that they become very distinct words. All right. So that's another possibility. And so here's an interesting one. Here's a Deluo sign. So now let me go back. Here's an English example of a homonym. All right. So this is an English example of a homonym. So this is monolinguistic homonym, meaning in the same language, internal. But now I want to show you an example of an external, a cross pollination of homonym. So in the Deluo language, which is a system of signs, we have three words, and so I'm gonna have Emiket pronounce these three words since this is her native language, if she don't mind.
Not at all. So the first one is or. Should I pronounce them all at once?
And that means
okay. Or means to send. And then the second one is sin, and that is to have sadness. And then the third one is got, and that is mountain.
okay. So we have or, sin, and got. Now those are easy. I could have pronounced those. That was easy things right there. Okay. So now again, I want to back up a bit because this is how we talk, and I'm saying that we understand what we mean when we say this, but when we get into the nitty-gritty of linguistics and language and everything, it's about being surgical and precise. So, or when we say or means send, what we're really saying is or matches the English sign for send, SEND, and so on. So I just want to, kind of reiterate that. But or is sin. Sin is sadness. Got mountain. Now, here's an interesting thing. On the left right here, we have a Deluo form that has this meaning. And so I want to ask if MK, if you can read this Deluo form and also the meaning.
Okay, so that phrase is read as Agnone mature. And what it means is I have stepped on and broken him, her, or it.
Okay, so can you pronounce this form again?
Agnone mature.
All right. So now everyone heard her pronounce it. But now visibly and visually, if you're not familiar with this Deluo sign, which is another way of saying you don't know the Deluo language, which is a language is a system of signs, you're going to see this form by way of your own language and English, for example. We're going to assume this is two English words, anyone mature. The average English speaking person is going to look at this and say, oh, this is anyone mature, which means something totally different than what this actually is in the Luo language. Can you pronounce it one more time?
Agnone mature.
Okay. Anyane mature. Hopefully I got that close. And it means I have stepped on and broken him or it. That has no equivalency to anyone mature. The meaning of anyone mature in English. Okay. So what is this an example of? This is an example of a homographic phrase by way of two different languages. It doesn't sound the same, so I can't say it's a homophone or homophonic. It's not that, but it's homographic. It looks the same. It doesn't sound the same, but looks the same as something in two different languages. Okay, so and we could cite a lot of them, but that may prove to be problematic if people don't know what's going on. So anyway, I just want to show that example, and then I go into other things that I'm not going to touch on tonight. I don't want to make this whole live just going back over what we've done. So it's in the archive. So again, if you're interested more on this topic, look at the I believe Emicat posted the link to it. It's an archive video from last year. All right. So all right, so I'm gonna, in that here, man, ask if anybody has any comments, questions, something to share, any corrections.
Yeah, I think that was interesting, especially since you talked about what language is and specifically like communication. What is the goal of communication? And that is to have a successful transfer of transmission where you have like the encoding and the decoding. But it's kind of interesting because like with some of the stuff that you get to read on the social media platforms is when some people talk about like language A is a bastard language, so I only speak language B, I only want to hear language B, like things like that. And mostly like English gets the bad rep, about that. Like, people talk about English like then English being a bastard language is not whatever. But then when you actually understand what the language is, like you said, anything that is effective in communicating, like the encoding and decoding, that's how that is the level of measuring like what the effectiveness of languages as opposed to like preferences. But you see people do that a lot on the internet. So that was interesting to kind of emphasize on that one.
Anything else? Anybody else? No. All right. So we can move on. So make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. So anything from the chat. So again, shout out to the chat. I know I've been on my little talk just now. So just make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. Go back up. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Got a brother Hassan, Jeremy, Robert. Who else? Brother Donnie. And don't be afraid to click the link. So again, the link is pinned to the top. So if you want to come on the panel, by all means, you're welcome. And Wasara, Brother Mathis, Zane, Desharab, Fritz. Who else? Damo is in the house. Okay. So I don't see any questions.
Oh, I see one.
Oh, I may miss it. Where do you see it? Oh, the last one?
Yes.
Okay, Brother Mathis. When can we break down the actual date using the calendar from ancient Egypt? Okay, that's a good question. We can do that. We can actually do that. So, but not right now. We could do that. And by date, I'm assuming you mean basically what you're asking is by using the ancient Egyptian calendar, what would be today's date according to their calendar? Is that, am I understanding your question correctly? You can, I know there's a delay, so just, I want to make sure I got your question correctly. You want to know what will be today's date if we were to use the Egyptian calendar? So I think that's what he's asking. But anything else on that? Who do we have on the panel? I'm not even sure. Oh, it's just us. Chris, you got anything for us?
None.
Okay. Chris is like, welcome to KMT radio. I've already been all over there, so I'm just chilling.
Yes, chill.
I have nothing for you guys. All right, so
Yeah, but it's crazy how much people don't really think about it, like, because language is something that people just they do it naturally, that you never really think about the intricate nature of language, and the science behind it and all that kind of stuff, until you have to until you get to that point where you literally sitting there and studying a different language, or you actually your language, like as a field, or even or studying a foreign language. That's when you kind of like really look at it from a broader perspective, because there's some things that we just ignore and assume that it's just innate.
Well, that's a good point. A lot of people, sometimes when we use something so common, we have this default assumption that we understand it and master it and everything like that, but that's just not true. So in the case of language, we really don't know what a word is, although we use them every day. But the average person has no idea what a word is. And so what I just showed is an example of actually what words are, what we're calling words. They're actually signs. And for this reason, this is one of the reasons why I no longer, it's been a long time since I've haven't used this word to describe the glyphs, because we'll say go to the sign list, Gardner's sign list. What's the Gardner's code for the sign list? Sign. But no, the glyphs are not signs. I call them glyphs, glyph list, and not sign list. Because when you start to study this level of language and know what signs are, you want to make sure that you maintain the proper nomenclature. And so I don't refer to the glyphs as signs. Anything else on that? Nope. All right. We can move on to another subject. So I'm gonna move on to another subject. Now I am willing to bet you that this subject, people are gonna click the link. People are gonna click the link for this one right here. So let me just get everybody warmed up to the subject. So here's another, make sure you can see the whole thing. I believe you can. Let me make sure that this could be seen properly. Guess not. Give me 1 second. Make sure everyone can see everything on here. All right. So anyway, so here it is. So now this is from 3 years ago, almost to date. This is 3 years old presentation I did on Kemet versus Nubia Kush. Now, if you tuned in last night, you heard a conversation. Well, part of the topic, this topic came up. It wasn't the focus of last night's live session, but this came up. It was how the ancient Egyptians saw themselves as distinct and distinguished from Nubians, or what people call Nubians. And last night I said I did a whole presentation on this. And so now you know the date. It was from September 8th, 2018. And I did this on Facebook. I did it on YouTube. So this is also in our archives. All right. So you can look for it. So I'm not going to go over the whole presentation, obviously, but definitely if you're interested, go check it out. But I do want to touch on a few things. And basically, some of the things I said last night, I'm just going to touch on here. So remember last night, I pointed out the geography of Egypt versus what people call Nubia, even though this was never called Nubia by the Egyptians. And there's confusion as a consequence of us calling a group of people Nubians and this place Nubia. Okay. It's almost like a regional name and not a name, because Sudan is the name of this area. And now today we have two Sudans, North Sudan, South Sudan, not Nubia. In terms of the country. And so, but I already went over all of that last night. Remember, I spoke about these names. Let these names and places be what they are to the Egyptians. The Egyptians called these places and people by certain names. And because so many of us don't know these names, we just blanketly call them whatever. And in the case of the conversation, I was talking about the places south of Kemet and the various peoples south of Kemet. They just lump them into one group and call them Nubians, the Nubians. And people even put a slash, Nubian Kushites, you know, Nubian, Ethiopian Kushites. They put all three of those together. But like I said last night, the word that people are calling Nubia and Nubians is really stems from a word Nehesi or Nehes. And in early Egyptological works of the early 1900s, and this is an example of Budge, it's in 1896, they translated the word Nehes as Negro, black. Negro means black. And so they were implying that the word Nehes means black. And so they say Negro land. But here's what's interesting, right? You got this silly argument. I call it silly now because it's based on willful ignorance at this point. But you have a silly argument about what does the word Kemet mean, or the claim that Kemet means the land of black people. But if you look at the screen, Budge and his contemporaries already named a land Black land. It's right in our face right there. It says Negro land. Negro means black. So they were saying back then that the territory south of Egypt, ancient Egypt, was the Black land, Negro land. And the Nehesi, or the people, were blacks. I mean, you can see it on the screen. And pull out my arrow. Negro means black. So I think we all are aware of that. So if we were to translate Negro, this would be black land. And Negroes will be blacks. Negroes is plural, blacks is plural. Blacks living in black land. But this is Nehes, not Kemet. This is South. All right. That's just interesting there. But I already went over this last night, and I told people that that's the origin. And so what happened, though, is that this word Nehes that used to be translated as Negro, whatever, later on, by the time you get to the next generation of Egyptological or Egyptologists, they swapped it with the word Nubian. And so that is the flow of how that word is being used. Okay, then you have a whole nother side of Nubia and Nubians being used from the Noba people in North Sudan, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a whole, story to tell there as well. But anyway, okay, so I kind of touched on this last night, so I'm not gonna, retouch on it. I even showed in the glyphs the different types of blacks, as these scholars would say. We have the Jam blacks, the Imam blacks, the Wawat blacks, the Ka'u blacks, and that's it. So each time you see Nehes, they would translate it to Negro. All right. But so now we're going to pick up from here. So we're going to continue, because I mentioned some of these things, but last night it was a side topic that turned into a rabbit hole. So I want to come back and revisit it. So here's some primary sources, because I told everyone that, I have plenty of sources to demonstrate what the things I was saying last night. So here are some of them. And again, this is from a presentation from 3 years ago. So here's an example of a primary text where, and I'm just going to go through a few of them and describe them. So in primary sources, at times the Remich, and for those who don't know, the ancient Egyptians refer to themselves as Remich. So at times the Remich speak of their southern neighbors, who are often referred to as Nubians or Cushites. And they refer to them as Bashchu, or Beschu. And that word Beschu, it means rebellious. Okay? Beschu means rebellious. And you're going to see that. You're going to see that up here. So, but I'm going to read the English translation. Unless you all want to, unless somebody wants to come on the panel and we can read through the glyphs and everything. I'll remove all the text, but I just don't want to take up a lot of time. But we could have a little fun with that. But anyway, this text says, one came to say to His Majesty, the Nehesi, and let me get my arrow pointer up here so I can point out these different words here. So we have Nehesi here, and the Nehesi is descending, which is the word Hau, and this is here. The word Hau here means to descend. Okay, the Nehesi is descending in the area of Wawat, and we see the word Wawat right here. he planned a rebellion. Here's the word rebel. Against Kemet. You see against it. This word which is to be against. Kemet. We see the word Kemet here. This is the word Kemet, the place name of the kingdom of Kemet. So a rebellion against Kemet, which we know is ancient Egypt. He is assembling himself and all the foreigners and the rebels of another country. Okay, so they describe it as another country. They describe them as rebellious. Okay. All right, so just want to point that out. Now the word another, so we have Nuket and then Chasset. This is a foreign country. Everyone's familiar with the word Heka Chasset or Heka Chasut and shortened to Hyksos. Should be familiar with that. This is Chasset, which is a foreign land or country. Ket is the word another. Okay, Nu is of. So that's that one. Does anybody have any questions on that one? I'm just running through a couple of examples, so it's not really nothing to point out. All
It's
right.
in the tomb. It's in the tomb of inscription of. Okay.
Yes, from the description of Thutmose the fourth, grandson of Thutmose the second. So if people want a time frame of this text, then just familiarize yourself with Thutmose the fourth and look at it when he was alive and reigned and so on and so forth. All right. Okay, so let's move on. Another one. So here's an example. A primary source example of Kemet's southern neighbors, which are often called Nubians, being taught the Egyptian language. Rani Kemet. Now, this is from the 18th dynasty. All right. Instruction of Ani. It contains instructions to a scribe, where in one section, the author names several animals, including a dog, a monkey, and a goose, and describes how they should normally behave, followed by a reference to the Nehesiu. These are Egyptian southern neighbors. All right, so where's my arrow? Let me go over here and grab my arrow so we could walk through this. Okay. So we have one teaches, see the word sabah? Y'all see that word sabah right here?
Two.
Okay. All right. Then we have the word nahesi or nahesiu. All right. And so to go on, it says one teaches the nahesiu the language of the Remich, of the people of Kemet. You see the word Remich here? Everyone should be familiar with how that looks. Remich, Ni, Kemet. Okay, right there in our face. And instead of Ra-Ni Kemet as the language of Kemet, this is Medut. Medut, Remich, Ni, Kemet. Medut is the word. So when we say Jed Medew, we say words spoken. Jed Medew in, words spoken by. So Medew is often translated as words. So someone is teaching the Nehesiu the words, the vocabulary, the lexicon of the people of Kemet. If they were the same, they would not describe this way. All right, but let me continue. Then it goes on, the Karu, and any foreign land likewise say, I will act as all animals. You should listen and you should learn what they do. Okay, so anybody got any questions on that? Nope. All right.
I was gonna say, even though this is 18th dynasty, but you really can see like a late Egyptian style though.
Mm-hmm.
like the writing style of Lady Egyptian.
Well, yeah, certainly when they start using pa, the end will kind of give it away.
And Kemu, I never seen the way they have it. Yeah, I know it's you say Kemet. There's a Kemet. Let's see here. Yeah, Kemet, but they have the U, the coil there.
Mm-hmm.
Kemut or just Kemet. Yeah.
All right, so let's keep it moving. So here's another one. Put on my cursor here. So here's another one. This is from the Papyrus caller. And so we have read. We have various primary sources of how, and matter of fact, let me make sure that this is locked on my screen. I know when I talk, it's locked on my screen. So make sure it spotlights. Okay. And if anybody has any questions in the chat, I'm gonna come back to it. So I apologize because I'm just gonna read through these real quick. I just got about 2 more examples. This is from the Papyrus caller, and it says we have various primary sources of how the Remich, which are ancient Egyptians, saw and defined their neighbors. One of the views of their neighbors to the south, what most misnomer as Nubians. Here, a Remich official called Passer sends a letter to an unnamed dignitary to the south. He describes a scene of tribute paid to Kemet. Note the description of the people. So this person is describing a tribute that is paid to Kemet by the foreign neighbors, the southern neighbors. So let's just see how he describes it. But note the description of the people, okay? So we have Terek Kai. So we have the tall Terek, which is a group of people. So we actually have a name of a people right here who live south of Kemet. They're tall. So the tall Terek, which is a group of people in loincloth garments. So that he's describing how they're dressed. Loincloth garments. They're fans of gold, wearing long feathers. And don't we see that in the iconography? Where the people in the south have the feathers in the head and everything. Their bracelets. Here's a mention of bracelets again. With woven knots. And many nehesiu consisting of all sorts. So the Terek people are among the nehesiu because remember, the nehesiu, the word nehesiu was used as a blanket term by the Egyptians for people who dwelt in the region of Ta Nehesi. But within that region, you have multiple different distinct groups, and the Tarek people are one such people. Okay, so they're tall, and this is the kind of things that they wear. All right, so that's interesting, right? So that's good. I mean, this is the distinguished. So again, I don't want to move away from my point that I was making last night, and that I'm reinforcing right now, is that the Egyptians are the Egyptians. What people are calling the Nubians are the Nubians. And the mistake that so many people make is they want to make them one people. And they're not. If we call the Nubians what they should be called, which are the Nehesiu collectively, they are distinct from the Egyptians, as the Egyptians are telling you themselves right here, right now, that I'm sharing. All right. So let's move on. Here's another example. So in primary sources, at times, the Remich speak of their southern neighbors often. Did I already go over this? This may be a repeat. Oh, no, this is actually a different one.
Yeah, you did.
At times, the Remich speak of their southern neighbors, often referred to as Nubian Cushites, as Bashu, rebellious. So this is another rebellious text. There's another description of calling them rebellious. And this is from Thutmose II from Aswan. And everyone knows where Aswan is, right? Aswan is at that border, right? All right. So anyway, let's go through it. So we have Etu, which when we say Et Imhotep, we say welcome. in peace. Et Imhotep through the stative, welcome in peace. But Itu is one came. So this is why it starts in as one came. But anyway, we have one came in order to inform his majesty. So we have Hemef here, just to let everyone know. That. Then we have Cush. See the word Cush? This is the word Cush. But Cush is being described here as a chesed. Like we say, have chesi, which means wretched or defeated. And so this is this word. So this is the wretched Cush. So that wretched or defeated Cush are a path into rebellion. Those who are subjects of the Lord of the two lands. And we see Neb Tawi, Lord of the two lands. They are plotting of the rebels' plan, preparing to strike what and who? Strike the Remage. Namely, stealing cattle. We have Menmenet for the word cattle. Of the fortress which your father built out of his victories. And we have the word Medew for monuments and fortresses, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So that's a description of the distinction now. The distinction is being made. All right, let's move on to another one. Here's another one. This one, I'm just read it. On the issue of language of Kemet's southern neighbor. Okay, everybody wants to know, man, they were the same people. They were the same. Somebody even last night invoked Dr. Theophile Obenga, saying, well, I'm rocking with Obenga that says they're the same. But anyway, on the issue of language of Kemet's southern neighbors, we have primary sources by way of the Salyer papyrus of the Remage ancient Egyptians describing one or more languages of its southern neighbors as being foreign to them. The latter details a scribe's frustration with his stubborn student. Okay, so we're going to read this. It says, you are in my employ. And you see here the word Nehisi, you. And then it says, Aati, you are in my employ as a jabbering Nehisiu. When he is brought, see the word, when he is brought with, and then tribute. Inu, tribute. So in other words, remember, there was a common occurrence with when the Egyptian southern neighbors used to come into Egypt. For what purpose? They used to bring tribute. They used to trade. They used to bring tribute and trade goods. And what the scribe is saying is that the person he's trying to teach, the student he's trying to teach, they're jibber jabbering, like the Nehisiu when they come paying their tribute. Speaking gibberish. Because why? Why do they describe it that way? Because the language is foreign to them. No different than today when a little kid who speaks English goes to a Chinese restaurant and then mocks the Chinese language. No different. People like chong 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 chong. I mean, that's kind of cruel to do that. Disrespectful, but kids do it. Kids have no filter. Is everything okay? I mean, that's what kids do. So, but anyway, so this description of the sounds of the Nehisiu language uses the same word the Remage used in the Old Kingdom reference to the language of the Chihinu, the Libyans. The word in this case is Aati. The word Aati probably served as an amiable imitation of sounds and words unknown to the Remage, and it seems to support that the language of the Nehisiu was not familiar to the ancient Egyptians. And today we do this when somebody is talking to you and you don't understand them or whatnot. I know I used to use this a lot, and you know, and my friends back in the day when people would just talk and not really say anything, or you don't understand what they're saying. We used to call them Charlie Brown's mother, because you know in the cartoon series, Charlie Brown cartoon series, all of the adults, you never understood what the adults were saying. And Charlie Brown's mother, he used to talk to his mother on the phone, and like wah 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 wah, or that's all you hear, wah 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 wah. And we used to do that. So this is no different. Ah, Saati. I don't, we don't know exactly how this is pronounced, but that's what they were doing. That word right here, which is this word here.
Joe,
Yes.
could this word be an example of what is it? Onomatopoetic or onomatopoeia?
Yep. Onomatopoeia. Exactly. And for those who don't know, explain that. Break that down real quick.
It's like when you I hate to give example, but it's when a word.
Don't do it. Don't. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you. Boy, go ahead.
Which I thought I was gonna do.
I thought you were gonna do the I thought you were great. Pull out the
Oh, you know what? Okay, now that makes sense. See, that explains everything. I was looking forward to what St. Chris was going to explain.
He's like, don't do it. Don't. No, it's when a word is I guess when you assemble consonants to like symbolize a sound. That's probably a really rough way to try to say what it is, but
okay. Yeah. That's it.
like the word
Say it
miu,
again?
cat, miu, like meow, miu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And that happens around the world. Some words have an origin, an onomatopoeic origin, where the word for a phenomenon is its very own natural sound. So yeah, there you go. Okay, so let's move on. I got one more. Let me just move this over here. All right, I got one more just to share. These are anybody who's tuned in late right now, I'm just sharing a couple of examples of how the ancient Egyptians saw their southern neighbors specifically. Okay. And the point here that I made last night, I'm reinforcing, is that the ancient Egyptians always saw themselves distinct from their neighbors. And this is what defines them. And everyone does this. Everyone does this to this very day. But what are those distincting requirements or rules, inclusion, exclusionary rules? So anyway, just to this is the last one for now. This is from the papyrus Anastasi 3a. And in this papyrus, so we have various primary sources of how the Rimage ancient Egyptians saw and defined their neighbors. One of the views of their neighbors to the south, what most misnomer as Nubians. So we start off with the word Nahesiu. It says Nahesiu Neferu. So we have the word Neferu or Neferu. Then we have Ni Kush or Keshi. And so remember, so we have the Nahesiu, Neferu, Ni, Keshi or Kush, Kash, as they have it, Kash. Then we have En Shau. And so what is it saying? It's saying define Nahesi. So it's Neferu. So Nahesi Neferu. So this is describing define Nahesiu of Kush, fit for giving a fan's shelter. They are shod, and we get down to shod with what? With white sandals. So we have hedge, and then the word for sandals, which is chabut or chebut. All right. And we see here. So white sandals. So they're shod with white sandals, clothed in fine linen. their bracelets on their hands. We see the word hand here. All right. That's a very, very favorable view of their neighbors. They call them fine the hissue of Kush, fitting for giving a fan shelter because they're known for bringing those, and we see that in the artwork. Shod with white sandals and fine linen, with bracelets and things like that. So this is a description. Okay, so again, and that's the last one I'll just show now. But the point here, or last night, this is just an extension of it, was that the ancient Egyptians saw themselves as distinguished and distinct from their southern neighbors that people like to call the Nubians. So we have to stop romanticizing because it's completely unnecessary. People are forcing the Egyptians to be something that they're not. And there's no need for it. The Egyptians are genius. They did what they did and everything all on their own. They don't need to be anything else. They don't need to be Asian. They don't need to be European, Caucasian, none of that. Nubian. They don't need to be. Let them just be who they are. Their image. Why can't we respect that? That's selfish as I don't know what for us to make them something else so that we could find ourselves in there. That's really what it's about. Y'all know that, right? People want the Egyptians to be them so bad that they'll make the Egyptians something else that they feel like they can tie into. When many people don't have any direct relationship with ancient Egypt. It's crazy. We can't just admire the culture for its genius. Why they have to be us or we them?
You are hurting our feelings.
I'm hurting the feelings, but listen, you know, that's we have to do something. Like we can't be enablers of our own demise, our own intellectual demise. We can't do it. We shouldn't do it.
Indeed.
You know.
Yeah, when you're reading that and saying what you're saying, I find it interesting because I think for anybody that has Credo Mutua's book, in Endowed by Children, and when you read it and you see like how marimba and how people and the descriptions they have for the warring Maasai that always disrupts their peace and things of that nature, and and the one Maasai that is captured and all that. Like the description, when you're reading, you don't get off. It's weird because everybody understands or have an idea of who these people are. They do not get offended when you read something like that and the descriptions, but then it's pretty much almost parallel to like the descriptions that we're seeing here with the Aramet and the Nehisi, but it's because there's that external preconceived notion that people have and some feelings, I don't know, then it gets then something else is injected into that thought of why like where something like this will be very kind of offensive, but in another setting you see the same thing and you just read it calmly and understand that this is a different tribe, they're Kamba people just describing themselves and their neighbors, the Maasai, and no feelings are caught.
Yep. So I mean, that's the extent I wanted to kind of go into that, but like I said, I did this a while back. This subject came up years ago, and so I'm just revisiting right now, and just wanted to share that. All right, so that's it. I mean, anybody else have anything else? Like I said, the link again, the link for those who are in the chat. Shout out to the chat. The link is in the chat if you want to come on the panel. And I see it's just us four. Brother Adara, do you have anything to add to that?
No, for now, I'm just noticing that you are changing the core of the discussion because by many years the discussion was based on the social development of race, and you are changing that to uh, not you yourself, but you're following the steps of people like Sheikh Anta Diop, which is concentrating on culture itself and the importance of dealing with culture.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I'm glad that you mentioned Dr. Shekanta Diop, because a lot of us admire and admire his work and respect his works. And man, if it wasn't for his works, we probably wouldn't even be doing what we're doing. And but a lot of people use him as well as a weapon, and they use him and Dr. Obinga and some others. They use them as weapons against the progress because they want to stay stuck on what you were saying, the social aspects or constructs of race and etc. And so every time somebody does that, we always, myself, brother Sarimotep, and brother Sanjeti, we show them words from Diop himself where he says, "Don't do that." And actually it disturbs him when people do that. And so we have quotes from him where he expresses this. He
Yeah,
tells
yeah,
people, don't believe him, check behind him and advance the work, correct the errors and advance the work, all that good stuff. So yeah.
yeah. And that's kind of demanded because you have to be disciplined to do that, to transpass his works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Let's see if I could turn this. Okay. I'm sorry. I was trying to see what these settings on the channel. So yeah, that's it. And one thing that I constantly advocate is that we really have to let go of the banana in the tailpipe, which is the social construct of race being misused. Now, and even when I say that, every now and then people hear me say it, they will assume that I'm saying that there's no such thing as race. And that's not what I'm saying. I always have to tell people that's not what I'm saying. Like, why are you hearing that when I say what I'm saying? What I'm saying is that the social construct of race is real, and we function by way it, we're affected by it, but it has a very narrow scope. We can't use it in other areas, especially when talking about history. We just can't do it. I mean, recent history, yes, but not um further down the line, ancient history and stuff. Definitely not ancient history. It's being misapplied. And it is what it is. Because see, what people don't understand is how things are grouped. And this is an ontological thing, ontology, taxonomy, categorization, whatever, however you want to call it. People have to understand that every single grouping has within it by nature. This is not something that we even have to make up or anything. Every group of things that we create and put in a group, it comes with an inclusion rule and an exclusion rule. So for example, if I say all the boys go to this locker room and all the girls go to that locker room, I am creating two groups, and the inclusion exclusion statement is self-evident. Obviously, in the boys' locker, the inclusion statement is you have to be a boy, and the converse of that, the exclusion statement is that if you're a girl, you're excluded. If you're a boy, you're included, and then vice versa for the girls' locker room. It's just that simple. And so we got to understand the criteria of grouping and not focus on the grouping itself and get caught up in the labels and everything. So the Egyptians coalesced themselves and unified and everything like that. They created a social community consciousness of themselves and identity. They called themselves the Remage, and they made themselves distinct from everybody else. We should be able to respect that, hands down. But we don't. And that's very disrespectful. And people want to say honor the ancestors and this and that. Like, man, you're disrespecting people. You can't do that. You know, they didn't refer to themselves by the same means that we refer to ourselves today. But anyway, so anybody else has something?
You are touching in a very big stone in our path, because for so many years we were taught of the importance of that salience, which is the color of our skin and the phenotypic feature, and its role on our behavior and our relationships, that it's been difficult to get out of that mark. So the path is a good one, but it's at the same time a very difficult one, because we are very sensitive when these things are talked about.
Yeah, they are. They are very sensitive. And I definitely realize that. And I see people are still arguing about it right now today, to this very day. They're arguing over the meaning of the word Kemet, whether it means the land of black people or was talking about the soil or is naming the soil and stuff like that. They're still arguing that.
Yeah, to this day, to this
Yeah.
day. And when they are not talking about that, they are going to the other way, saying that, for example, to deal with ancient Kemet is a waste of time, because we are talking about the people who were from a time uh, long enough to be uh, 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 un, I mean, there's no worth to deal with that people, because they are too much ancient, and that it's better for us to deal with the diasporic culture. As for example, I'm talking about my here where I live in Brazil. We talk about a lot by, for example, the Axé culture, the culture of Candomblé, for example, here in Brazil, which was developed during the colonial period, where the Yoruba people and the Bantu people uh, maintained their culture by mixing all up, and then very very people here, a large number of people here prefer to deal exclusively with this culture, and not dealing in any way or form with ancient Kemet, for example, seeing no connection, or talking, or with the arguments that uh, from the premise, which the Africa is a very large continent and the people are very different, but they go from the idea that that difference is a difference which none of these people have connection with each other. A very fallacious one, but is one that is uh, uh, talked about a lot right here.
I got a question.
Sure.
Do me and you have a connection? I'm talking to the brother that was just the doctor that was just speaking.
It was me.
Do we have a connection?
I mean, some of at least the experience we got, we are in the same pattern of culture. We deal with relates with us at the same form. So in a way or the another, we got a connection of the way we deal with the society. At least in that aspect, yes. But it has many others that we don't have any connection at all. But for example, the language I'm talking about right now is a language which connects us in a way or another, because here too I was bombarded with the culture you were born of, if I made myself understood.
Okay.
I want to show you. I want to illustrate something real quick. That's to kind of use that question, Donnie, your question, real quick. I just want to show something and make a point. This is like a little hot second teaching moment. Let me just show my screen once again, real quick. Y'all bear with me 1 second. Do this as fast as I can. There we are. All right. So you all know that I use the whiteboard. All right. So now remember, I always say that nothing, no thing in existence exists in and of itself. Everything that exists, it exists as an expression of relationships, because everything is is a distinction from something else. And so everything is interconnected and interrelated. And so what we call a thing is really a formula of relationships. And so I'm going to give you an example. Water, right? So we have let's just say river or lake, water from a lake. And then I'm gonna put over here, this is ocean water. Now, we can make distinctions. Now, if I take off the word lake and I take off the word ocean, we just have water. But by me putting on the word lake and the word ocean, that's an adjectival reduction or narrowing. So I'm describing a type of water. So water from the lake, water from the ocean. And by me doing this, I'm making a distinction. But there's a relationship between the two, although they're distinct, because both of these are water. And so adjectives in all languages around the world are words that allow us to express distinctions of things that are otherwise the same or can be mistaken as the same. So this opens the way for us to make these distinctions. Now, we can argue that both of these are water. Why? Because they're both liquid. They're both predominantly H2O, which we say water, and so on and so forth, down to the atomic or elemental level of hydrogen, oxygen, et cetera, and all that good stuff, right? But sometimes it's necessary to distinguish things. Why? And this is a good example. Ocean water, you cannot drink, but water from the lake or river, you can. Or maybe I should call this fresh water, because that's what we normally call it, fresh water. We can drink fresh water, but we cannot drink ocean water. So that becomes an important distinction to make, although they're very related because they're both water. So again, the point I'm making is that this is a very natural phenomenon, and we just got to get up on it and understand it, that we make distinctions. This is referred to as ontology and taxonomy, to kind of put in these two categories. Ontological activities of groups of people happen all the time. And ontology is basically the categorization of existence. How do a people fit things in their universe into categories? And taxonomy is usually a hierarchical thing. Within those categories, how do they stack up? What's the hierarchy? And usually the hierarchy is from vagueness to distinct to detail. So you go from detail at the bottom to vagueness at the top, and ontology left and right. So it's two motions. It's a left to right motion and an up and down. The left to right or columns is ontology. The rows is taxonomy. And that forms a grid. And that grid forms a web of describing relationships. That's all we're really doing, because everything is interconnected. So like, and I'm gonna give you another example, and I'm gonna pull this down. I'm gonna give you another example. Let's say, and I don't know the chemical transcription for this, but I'm just gonna say salt, right? Let's just say salt, table salt, and I don't know what else can I name? Sugar. Okay, so we have salt and sugar. Now these are distinguished just in their name alone, because salt and sugar. So we name something called salt and we name something sugar. They can look alike though, because they happen to look alike. Salt looks like sugar and vice versa, right? Especially grind down salt and sugar. And so now I don't know the chemical formula for both of these on the molecular level. And I wish I did off the top of my head. I don't, but maybe somebody in the chat could shoot it to me real quick. But whatever that is, let me put this on top.
NaCl.
Okay, all right, there we go. Say it again. This is for salt, right?
That's for salt, yeah. NaCl.
Yeah, the doctor came with that. Shout out to the doctor.
Okay, now how about sugar? Can somebody give me
C6. I think it's C6H12O6.
C6
H12O6.
Now, Chris, I'm gonna assume that you looked that up, because if you memorize these things, then I'm gonna be worried.
I'm a scientist, man. Remember, that's what I do every day.
All right, no, that's good. That's good. I'm just playing.
You
So
said-
now I'm just playing. So remember, these numbers would be subscripted. They would be lower, but I'm not gonna take the time to do that. So okay, and I want to show you all something.
With the oxygen, O6.
Oh, 06. Okay, sorry about that.
No, the H12 is right. No, it's C6H12O6.
Oh, 06. Okay.
Yeah. Something like that.
Something like that. All right. So people are gonna get the point I'm making. Okay. So here are columns. We have two distinguished columns. This is the column separation. Now we're gonna deal with vagueness from the etic, or I should write this the other way around, really. But anyway, from vagueness down to detail. Now, on the surface, these appear to be very distinct from one another. Even on a molecular level, they're distinct, because you got Na, which is what does Na stand for? Nitrogen? Sodium chloride. Okay, there you go. Yeah. All right, it's coming back to me. And carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So we have sodium chloride and carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So on a molecular level, they're different. But I'm going to skip all the way down to the atomic level. And so salt has electrons, protons, and neutrons. Okay. And sugar has these things too. So I'm kind of separate these a little further. All right. So both of these items, ultimately, when you break it down to its last compound, when you drill all the way down, both of these substances, I'm thinking of substances, they are made up of the same thing: electrons, protons, and neutrons. So here's a very key question. I hope everybody got that right there so far. That salt and sugar on the surface are very different. They're different to the taste. They do different things to the body if you consume them, and everything. Okay. Here's the molecular chemical formula for them. Distinct. But when you drill down and find out what they're really, really composed of, they're composed of the exact same thing. So here's the big question. What makes them different? So what makes them different is not the fact that they have something that either one does not have or have. It's in this keyword, the quantity of these things. And another keyword, the quantity and arrangement. So it's all about the quantity and the arrangement of the electrons, protons, and neutrons that makes salt different than sugar. Because the quantity and arrangement of these same things, these same elements, or subatomic particles, the quantity and arrangement of these is what makes sugar different than salt, and vice versa. So I hope everybody follows this. And it's because of this, which is why it's natural for humans to group and distinguish things and group things, that we call it ontology. And then we have this taxonomic hierarchy. Everybody does it. We have to do it. We wouldn't even be human and be able to function if we didn't do it. So I hope people understand that it's the quantity and arrangement of these electrons, protons, and neutrons that makes the distinction. Okay, so I hope everybody gets that. And so this is why the further down you go, you're going to see sameness. And the further up you go, percolating upwards, you're going to see distinction. And in the nomenclature of linguistics and how we document linguistic phenomenon, the higher you go, you're moving towards the etic level. And the further down you go, you're going to the emic level. And on the emic level, you start seeing sameness. And the etic level, on the surface, you see distinctions, differences. And in biology, with human biology, the further down you go, humans are the same. 99.9% the same on the genomic level. If you percolate up and you start coming up to the phenomic level, you're dealing with phenotype, the phenotypical level. Now people start to look distinguished and different. Then you go further from the genomic to the phenotypical level. You pierce through that and you start getting into culture, language, the way a person dress or a group of people dress and stuff. You start seeing more and more differences. All right, so I hope everybody understands that. So as we rise, coming in this direction upwards, you're going to hit distinctions. As we travel down, you're going to hit sameness. And this must be understood if we're ever going to make any progress with these conversations about identity. Because notice, it depends on what level you're on for identity. If we were on this level, the identity is not very helpful, because it's like you got a substance made of electrons, protons, neutrons. Guess what? You got this substance made of electrons, protons, and neutrons. Identity becomes irrelevant right here. Right here is relevant because now we have distinction. We can actually identify something distinct from this, but not down here. So we have to have this understanding. We have to, and through and under anthropology and human behavior and stuff, everything dealing around with humans, culture is the litmus for distinction. It's always been that way. Culture, not race. Race is a way up here high, superficial proxy that was created where one group has the advantage over another. I don't think I'll get any arguments from pushback from that statement. from anybody. Race is a social construct that's real, is being used, and one group of people are at the top of that hierarchy, and another group of people are at the bottom, and the social construct is sustained to make sure the people on the bottom stay on the bottom, and people on the top stay on the top.
I wouldn't sleep good tonight if I didn't say this. So everybody knows I'm slow. That's one thing. But when you gave the demonstration of, of the Nubian, which is a big lip, nappy hair, right? So how do I understand how to commit to you? What's the difference? Why did they see themselves differently? They must be two different people. And if that's the case, that's okay. But for the lay like me, you could talk about the protons and neutrons and all that old good stuff, but grill me for doing the lookership, but you got big lips and dreadlocks, you know what I'm saying, nappy hair and stuff like that. So how do I make it make sense?
No, it's okay. Well, the thing to be careful about is don't read too much into it. That's not really there. So the Egyptians made themselves distinct. I mean, they were distinct. Yeah, they were distinct. And so visually, they just represented that distinction by what I showed. That's it. And everybody does that. Like right now, I don't know how much of an artist you are or how well you can draw. But if I were to ask you to draw a Native American for me, I give you a piece of paper and a pencil, and I say, draw a Native American for me. You would draw what you feel, something that would represent what I'm asking, a Native American. And then I would ask you, are you a Native American? And you would say yes or no. And I say, well, draw you, and you would just make a distinction between the two. And it's just as simple as that. You have in your head how you would represent a group of people, and whatever you would draw from anything that's distinguishable. Because like let's say there, okay, for example, there are a few African tribes or groups of people on the continent of Africa that are known to wear, and even in South America, they're known to wear plates in their lips. Okay, they wear plates in their lips. And this is a custom. This is something that they're known for. And so because that's something that sticks out and what they're known for, if you were to represent them in artwork, you would include it. And so when it comes to the Nahisiu, the Egyptians, the Nahisiu are known for wearing jewelry. They're known for wearing feathers. They're known for wearing bracelets, anklets, looped earrings, and all that good stuff. And they're known for having markings on their skin. The Egyptians and I'm going to find a very well-preserved, detailed image of of one of the groups of Nahisiu people, one of the groups, where you can actually see that the Egyptians tried to include the markings that this particular group was known for as having on their skin. Today, scholars call it scarification. Shalooks that people get scratched or cut. They take a razor or some sharp object and cut their skin so it can keloid and form these tribal marks. And certain people are known for that. That's it. That's all it is. It's nothing else to read into it. That's all.
Yeah, I think we are dealing with a phenomenon which has two heads, or like a coin with two sides at the same object. Because, for example, I would take the axé right here in Brazil. The the source of axé is from partially from the Nigeria and partially from the other Bantu people. But as brought to Brazil together, the tribes, even rival tribes, were put together to Brazil. They develop a strategy to unite themselves. So in the Candomblé, for example, different from Nigeria, which every city, every village has its own orisha. Here in Brazil, the Candomblé, the Ilê of Candomblé, they worship all the orisha, many orishas at the same place. We have one person who with many orishas which she or he worship. Or not just that, in another places, the Ilê, where is the temple they call Ilê, the Ilê worships not just the orishas, but the ancestral people, which prominent people with had some prominent deeds. They are deified, so they are worshipped too. And not just that, the natural people from Brazil, the indigenous people are worshipped too. So we are dealing with this uh, uh, a similar a seemingly thing, because at the same time, when we are dealing with the ancient people, we have to uh, take to consideration the distinctions they made themselves from one another. At the other side, we are people which were brought all along the continent and put together here. So and we are facing the social construct of racism. If we dealing exclusively with the aspects of the tribal aspects, politically it could be not effective. So we are dealing with two things. Maybe that they work together in some places, and for example, in the scientific place, I think it is not a good path to go. But in a political path, maybe it's a good strategy to deal with it at the same way that the Africans in Brazil deal with things like candomblé, for example, which they.
You broke off. Could you just finish what you were finishing? I think you broke off in the last sentence.
Hello?
Yeah, Dr. Duarte, I think the last thing you said kind of went quiet when you were saying the last sentence, or was it just me?
No, it wasn't just you.
I think he was making a good points.
Yeah. Okay, he's
I wanna,
back.
I want to just take a moment real quick. Appreciate dua to Jeremy, brother Jeremy in the chat. So first one to use the super chat. All right, so just to let everyone know the super chat is on. Like I said, at the beginning of our live stream, is that any support that that we get, that you are willing to give, it goes towards projects that we all are working on. I'm working on publishing the grammar book. Emicat has another book, part 2 of her series of the Penmanship. And then we want to focus back on providing tools for everyone who has this as an interest. And by this, I mean the study of ancient Kemet and the culture, not to say, you have to feel like you are an ancient Egyptian or that you have an ancestor from there and all that stuff that people are arguing over ad nauseum. It's more so a serious study of the culture in order to tap into the genius of the people. And then from there, you can see what is useful. Is there anything useful that we could use today to help solve problems of today? Locally, collectively, whatever. And in my experience so far, in my study so far, I can definitely answer definitively yes. There's a lot that is very useful coming from the culture. And it's not just Kemet, of course. It's many cultures we could do the same. It's just that, me personally, my focus is on Kemet. 10 years from now, maybe on something else, on another culture, to add on to that. But anyway, so again, I appreciate the contribution. Now, usually people use super chat to kind of highlight their question too. So if anybody had a question and things, you use the super chat and the question, everything stands out, definitely, for sure. But Odara, the brother Odara, you made a good point, and I think you cut out, but I think everybody pretty much got the gist of what you were saying, the twofold things, and really it comes down to just having respect, allowing things to be what they are. It was crazy because we do it with animals, like a lion is a lion. Well, I can't say that for everybody because you got some crazy folks that do not respect a lion and will jump out of a car on a safari tour and then end up just being mauled by a lion. And then it's all over the news and we wonder, what happened recently, not recently, but fairly recently, the stingray guy got stabbed by a stingray fish or something.
I didn't see.
Yeah, it was something with the fish. Then you had somebody with a tiger, the tiger man. Anyway, so yeah, but it's about respecting people for who they are, and also remember this too. Who a people are, we use criteria for that. But the label, there's two types of labels, exonymic and endonymic. Exonymic names and endonymic names, the difference between the two is one is a label that comes from outside the people, and then in the other one, endo, is inside the people, which means that the people name themselves, and then we know them by the name they gave themselves, or exonymic, meaning a name given to them by somebody else, and then that name is how they became known by. And we have a lot of that going on. Like Egyptians, that's an exonymic name. The Egyptians themselves call themselves Rimage. So we should call them by the name that they call themselves, the Rimage. Stuff like that. Even Chinese, I believe China and Chinese, they don't call themselves Chinese in their language, if I'm not mistaken. The Nippon, something. I could be totally wrong, but I don't think they refer themselves as Chinese originally. I mean, that's, what it became. So there you have it.
Yeah, he also made a good point about there's a time and place for everything, like how Dr. Duarte said, like, it's not really viable to be using that kind of thought form when you're dealing with science. So it's like, and that happens, you will see it in different aspects. Like even I can give an example, like with just the different identifications on a continent. Like there's a time where there's national interest, matters that are of a national interest, and that way everybody collects themselves, put all the differences aside, and we're like, okay, so we're dealing with a Kenyan issue and we need to fix that Kenyan issue. And then it can go above that and be like, we're dealing with an East African issue and we need to sort out as East Africans. And then that includes other people, other territories around, on the East African region. And then it goes to, we're dealing with a continental issue, and that, and we have also organizations for that, like the AU. And sometimes they're, on a smaller scale where you're dealing with tribal issue and things of that nature. So there's always a time and place, and, for every form of identification, but people don't realize that. But I think that was a good point that he made as well.
Yes, definitely. There's a question in the chat. Jeremy asked, he said, I know they were different cultures, but didn't the culture of the Rimage derive from the South? And generally, yes. The answer to that is yes. And it's basically South and inner Africa. Obviously, but it wasn't isolated. It wasn't immune to cultural impressions from elsewhere either. So, I always like to include that and say that, because I think people are too extreme with that when people make claims that, for example, people, hate Western Asia so much, or the Middle East so much, and hate European groups of people so much that they say, nope, there was absolutely no influence from those places on the people of Egypt. And that's just not true. And then likewise, flip side, people say, no, the sub-Saharan African didn't get into Egypt until the Greco-Roman periods and all this and that. And that's not true. So the two extremes, they just need to go in a room and just box it out and leave us alone. We just be realistic with everything. But yeah, but in general, though, the answer is yes. The administrative body is understood as coming from the South. The unifying organization movement, the directional movement of that comes from the South. It comes from the South. All right, just like the river, the origin is in the South and it flows up to and empties out in the Mediterranean. That administrative unifying organizing element comes from the South, a southward direction, just like the wind. Like when meteorologists describe the weather and they say, hey, we have a westerly wind coming in, a cold front coming from the west, and whatever the case is, that's what that is about. But in terms of people, the people came from multiple directions and settled along the Nile and stayed sedentary there for over time. So, and see, and here's the thing. So here's a question. How does a culture become a culture? Like, think about that. How does a culture become a culture to where it's identifiable to say, okay, that is that culture? Because you got to think about it. If a bunch of people converge on one geographical location because of resources, whether it's the river, whether it's water, whether it's food, animal life and plant life or whatever, they converge on a certain area and then they start to just settle.
Tradition.
How? Okay, that's one thing. Let's hold that thought. But the question is, how does a culture emerge in the first place? What is the basis for that to happen?
Like anything. Go ahead.
No, I mean, finish your thought. Explain. You said like anything.
Like any business, like you put your business and you start your business and it goes through stages, like refinement and expansion and stuff like that. So the culture was in place and you build on the culture and then you refined it, you make it better, tune it, tweak it or whatever, and expand it, just like a business.
Okay. Okay. So let's put that on the table. Anybody got something else?
Yeah, I would like to posit some, brother, with y'all.
Okay. To that question.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
How you
Okay.
doing tonight? I want to say that first of all, and
Yeah.
greetings
Hotep.
to everybody on the panel. Peace.
Peace. Hotep.
I want to posit, you know, you asked when does it become a culture? That, first of all, now I think the word culture is a postmodernistic word in terms of what we had in Egypt. But I do want to posit this on the table. I think it's a culture when you have the other things like civilization, commerce, and ceremony. Like initiation ceremony, like civilization, like that. I think, and also another C would be cosmogony and cosmology. When you develop those, you definitely have culture.
Okay, so that's noted. But okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
So I just want to reiterate my question though. So I'm not asking us to define culture. I'm asking what is the basis for the emergence of culture in the first place?
I
So
would say
that's a
I would
different.
I would want to posit cosmology and cosmogony. That when a people have a communal or a mutual cosmology or cosmogony, that would determine that they are developing indeed a culture.
Okay. Anybody want to add to that? So we got two things on the table.
Language, development of a language, ritual relationship, ritualistic behavior on dealing with the
That would determine that they are developing indeed a culture.
Oh, that we got whoever that is, you got to I'm a oops. Okay, sorry about that. So I just muted whoever just came in. I can't even see who that was. I just muted because it came in with a little background noise. All right, so peace. I'm sorry. So whoever was just last talking, just repeat that because the last you got cut off a bit.
yeah, I said language, ritualistic behavior towards nature or towards the challenges of nature.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Um, yeah, would you also say when a group of people settle down and like in a place in that sense and have to survive, so then culture can kind of emerge from that, start emerging from that.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, all right. So those are good. So so I'm gonna give a little comment, but I'm not, I don't want my comment to be taken as like trying to refute those because those are valid pieces. But think about this. Um, so imagine disparate groups of people. So you got different people from different areas, right? And they're looking for resources. And so they come upon this place that has plentiful resources, fresh water, a good amount of animals, plant life, and all this other good weather or whatever the case is fitting. And so you got different groups of people that converge on that location. And eventually those people um stay together over time and a culture is emerged out of that. And so the one thing that I didn't hear anybody say is that at the base of culture is problem solving. So when people come together, they do whatever, and that could be a long list of those whatevers, but at the core of it, it's really to solve problems. It's the problem solving. And when they find solutions to problems, people tend to agree and to sustain those solutions. And those solutions to problems usually emerge and comes out, in a general way of an expression that we call culture. So, communication, somebody mentioned language, somebody mentioned cosmogony, cosmology, and other things. Those are different elements of the problem solving and solutions and things, because remember, it's surviving and sustaining. It's about surviving and it's about sustaining, and you do whatever it takes for those goals, because everybody wants to survive, and then everybody wants to sustain a comfortable life. And so you do things, you create things in order to make those things happen. Right? I mean,
I agree to a certain extent, but I would still say that, like when you say to sustain and survive, or survive and sustain, wouldn't that be like, that would very well, I would agree with you now, that would be the foundations of any culture. That's the foundations of life though. And just survival, just, living, just thriving to survive. So I agree on that level. But and I know it's no way to define a word. So I'm not in no way disagreeing with you. I know there's no way to define a word like culture or anything like that. But how can I say it? Culture would be established. I would think the actual culture would be established well after you have developed the ability to sustain, survive, live, thrive. You've developed the ability to, preservation of your species or whatever.
mm-hmm.
I say the basis of culture is trust. And when I say trust, I'm putting it in context of the modern world. And I don't want nobody to misconstrue me to be an expert or nothing like that. But, the modern world is a marketplace. It's an international marketplace. And we all fit in it somewhere. And a trust is an instrument that can unify the family. Because if I have several, like say one person in the family, and I'm taking myself as an example, have certain income engines, and these income engines is generating a good amount of money, and I buy property, I buy cars, and I buy all this stuff in this trust, but all this trust property is intended for family members. But for the family members to receive the benefit of this trust, they would have to obey the rules of the trust, which means no twerking on social media, no breaking the law, uh, no unnecessary confrontation with a police officer or something like that. You break the rules of the trust, you subject to have your benefits, waived from you.
Would that be the same as problem solving?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I see that, like that example. That's a good add. That's a good addition. To that bucket, that pot, because here's the thing: those rules that you were mentioning, they usually come out of things that will add life to life, and that's usually allowed. And then the taboo, or what's disallowed, is usually anything that takes away from life. I mean, I'm speaking in a very general sense. What adds life to life is usually acceptable and okay, and then what takes away from life is usually shunned and discarded, and that forms the basis of some rules. And so, when in a sense of culture, the problem solving aspect of that is how to sustain life and expand on it. And so a culture, within the culture, they have checks and balances. They have, a culture has its immune system. When these adverse or pathogens come into the culture, there's something in the culture that recognizes it and then tries to get rid of it. And that speaks to the kind of rules that, brother, you were just saying. Those he said no twerking on social media though. That was funny.
Yeah, I got plenty of girls in my family who do it. So, I guess I'm too old to understand. So if they want this nice apartment and this BMW that's trust property, then they have to be in line with that trust. And that means not disgracing the family. You look at the Carnegie Foundation. Man, I couldn't even tell you when Andrew Carnegie was born, but his foundation still lives on because he started with the JP Morgans. I just had a Chase credit card cancel on me, but that's his stuff. That's his family. His family had that company entrusted, and even down to the United States. By me being a natural born citizen of the United States, I have a birth certificate. And say I'm working, I get hurt on my job, and I can't draw no income, then I could go receive some of the benefits of this bona fide trust that I'm in with the United States. I could receive food stamps. I could get education from college. I could do a lot of things that access the benefits of these trusts, of this trust that I'm in with the United States. So family and trust, I think, is one of the cornerstones that has to be laid when you're setting up culture. And that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your epidermis.
But I think I would have to say that I wouldn't think that that was rightly stated as far as, like those two things have culture is of a higher nature than those two things that you just named.
Well, all right. So now we're getting into what is culture.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying.
so let's
He said those are the foundations. Those would be two other foundations, or those would have to be laid in order for you to have a culture. And so that would be defining culture. And I was just saying that culture is of a higher nature and trying to avoid getting into that definition, what you about to tell me about. Yeah, that's why I said it that way. But I understand what you're saying.
yeah, it's yeah, that's man, we should talking about culture and trying to pinpoint a good working definition of it is probably a show in and of itself. So I don't really want to go down that road right now, but
you remember Plato and Socrates? You remember how Socrates used to ask all those questions like this word or that word, and then he'll try to, I guess, tease the answer out of the different people or different, what they call it, interlocutors that he would talk to. So, I mean, it's cool. I think it's a positive thing that you're doing here. I mean, most people feel like because you use debate or somebody used debate or the word argument, all these are court and legal terms and things that, the presidents get into debates and, arguments in court. So those are not bad things. I think our definition and our understanding of how we argue and how we debate has to be, overstood, because I think a lot of people think that we should debate like they see other people debate, or they think that we should debate like scholars debate, or they think that we should debate like they think we should debate. But the way we debate when we get in debates is, I think, the best natural way that we should debate or talk about things or argue things or appeal about things or, make reference to things, teach about things, anything like that. I think it's healthy. I remember one time I heard a great man say that competition was healthy. And I agree with that. I think that having debates and talking about things bring out the best of people, and you get the best argument and you get the most information, and people express themselves the way they want to be and not try to fit into some category that people done already set that you're supposed to be in before you even start the debate. Like you need to have on a tie, you need to have this degree, you need to have this title, you need to talk this way, you need to be this way, you can't talk this loud, you can't say that word. I don't think that's a real debate.
Okay,
How-
well, that
how-
just okay.
I want to ask the brother, how is it have to be?
Repeat that question, bro.
How does he define the debates? Since he's saying I didn't understood. I'm kind of low in that topic.
Yeah, he
I
said
mean,
something about how we debate. So how is it that we debate that is better than how they want us to debate with the differences? Because that was,
that's a
Yeah, I
good
think
question. And I would say, I would repeat my answer, is that the same thing I said the first time, is that the way we debate is the way we debate. And I think that's just fine the way we debate. So I never really tried to define the way we debate. I simply said the way it's going, how it goes, whatever is said, however we get to it, is fine with me, and I don't think that we should try to define it. That's exactly what I'm saying. I don't think that we should try to define the debate, define the debaters, or make it go a certain way. And I was just commending the brother Wujao on the fact that I wanted him to feel confident that I didn't, at least one person on the line understands where he coming from with the question of culture, and understands that it's a deep question and that it's a big word and that you don't really define words. And I made the example of Socrates and the interlocutors and how he would ask a question about a word like define justice. Like you have words in the dictionary. Just let me finish this one thing. You have words in the dictionary that actually supposed to define words.
Can you help me? Can you help me?
I can hear you.
How can we talk about something we did not define? How we will know about what we are talking about if we don't have any definition of it?
Okay, that's a great question, because that's one of the questions that was answered by, well, it really wasn't answered, but it was given another question that sufficed for that answer by a man named Wittgenstein. You should look him up. He is a philosopher. His name is Ludwig Wittgenstein. And so the thing is that the question was, well, he posed the question that, the unsayable, or things being unsayable, unspeakable. So that which is unsayable or unspeakable, or that which cannot be said, must be passed by in silence. This was one of his sayings. That which can't be said must be passed by in silence.
But isn't it that a definition?
Say what now?
This is not a definition.
No, we're not trying to define. I'm not trying to define a word. I just said that is no word. That's what I was getting to a few minutes ago before you came in. I was saying that is no word that, let me just finish this time. Is no word that can be defined. That's what Socrates basically, proved with his question asking to the interlocutors about words like justice. Like you have words in the dictionary like justice, and you have definitions of them, but those definitions do not suffice in the real world. They are just mere words to give you a description of how to use the word in the language called diction. It's just a description of how to give you a way to use that word in the language. It's not a definition of the word. It's not called a definition.
We just want to know, what do you mean by how we debate? Like, just because we are listening and you have a picture of something that we're trying to, you have something in your head that you want us to know what it is when you say how we debate. That's all that was being asked.
Yeah, you see how we talking right now? You see how we talking right now? Is this a debate?
No, we're not debating.
Okay, so this is a conversation.
Yeah. So just what did you mean when you said? I think he was just he wanted to know when you said how we debate
Well,
as opposed to.
I'm trying to give you a real world demonstration and a real world picture. I'm not trying to give you a dictionary description.
No, not the dictionary.
So
Just
if you work with me just 1 second, you'll see what I'm talking about. Let me ask you one question. So this is a conversation, correct? A discussion.
correct.
We're talking.
So then a conversation and a discussion and a debate or an argument are all the same thing. It's rhetoric, it's dialect.
Okay, so you're saying this is a debate. That's what you meant by this is a debate.
No, that's not really what I'm saying. What I'm trying to get you to see is that our very conversation, how we handling it now, is fine with me. The way we doing it, the way we resolving this situation, the way you questioning me, and the way I'm answering you, whatever you want to call it, a debate, discussion, conversation.
No, I'm not calling it anything.
So,
I don't know what a debate is in your definition. That's all we were just asking. So what it is you define as a debate? We know we're having a conversation right now, so we are not talking about a debate. So just help us understand what you mean.
I'm gonna say it again. I have to give you a real world example of it because I don't try to define the word debate. Let me explain this. Wait, let me explain this, guys, if you don't mind, or you could tell me your name. It's another thing. I'll make a reference to Wittgenstein, Ludwig Wittgenstein. He spoke on something called language games. So in order to define, let's say, the word game, just bear with me, just because we getting to the point, but sometimes we have discussions about it. Everything ain't just a yes or no, just cut to the chase, give me the answer. No, it can't be like that. So just if you want to rock with me, we can rock like this. If you can't rock with me like this, then I don't know how to rock. I don't know how to do it. So this is what I'm saying. It's the language game. So now if I ask you, like the brother Wajau, and I'm simply just changing the word, he asked about culture. What's culture, or how do we get at culture? That's literally how we spoke about it. How do we get at it? We didn't say how do you define it. We say how do you get at culture? How do you get at comprehension? So how do you apprehend it? So now I'm saying to you, if I ask the panel or the people on the phone, and this is not no type of trickery, but if we were to try to define the word game, what would you say a game is? How would you define game?
Okay, let's just stop here for a minute. Did you watch the beginning parts of the show? Just I'm not trying to disrespect, but just
I was listening for a great part of it. It's
okay.
The real world. I was
hold on.
Wait. No. Hold up, y'all. Let me say something. Because I'm not going to repeat last night. I'm definitely not going to do that tonight. And so here's what's happening, and this is what happened last night too. I opened the live discussion. I opened the discussion and the live session, outlining something, and then later in the discussion, the topic and what was discussed actually demonstrated what I spoke of against in the beginning of the discussion. This happened last night, and y'all could go back and listen. And this is what's about to happen right now, because I opened tonight's discussion by talking about communication. I outlined exactly what communication is and what it's about, and what a word is, and how, and we have signs, and what language is a system of signs, and the whole thing. And I said arguments, what people call, disagreements, are really 90% due to miscommunication and not something that's really real. And so even right here with culture and debate. Now, let me just say this. I come from a background of debating, amateurly on the debating team in college and high school. So I have experience in debate, on a scholastic level, not professionally though. I didn't pursue it professionally, but on the amateur level, I competed, and I studied debate and everything around it, and was drilled it. And what's being described right now is not that. That's not what debating is or anything like that. So
I just chimed in. So.
Oh my goodness.
I just chimed in. But I wanted to give clarity, and you're right, Wuja, and it's your show and stuff. But to the brother who was talking about game or whatever, let me just answer you because I know you don't know what game is. So game is just knowledge with a flair. So
Okay, so
Okay, so now
let me hold on. Let me just outline. Let me just
go
outline
ahead
this. I
with
want
y'all.
yeah, because I want to bring it back to my because I don't want to spin off like we did last night.
Please.
I had asked the question about culture and what is the inspiration for culture to emerge in the first place? Like, why does culture even come about in the first place? That was my question. And I gave the scenario if different groups of people converged on a location, a geographical location that was full of resources and eventually unified and correlates with each other and everything like that, and then a culture emerges from that, what is that all about? And I was saying, and everybody gave a bit of input, and I was given adding to that input by saying it's driven by problem solving. You know, it's what drives culture is a group of people's ability and tools and resources to solve problems collectively. They agree. There's a tacit agreement involved. Like people don't sit around the table, okay, we're going to create a culture. No, cultures are organic, and it's implicit in the word culture itself. If you ever look at the history of the actual word culture, it kind of tells you what I'm saying, where you know it takes something that's wild and it tames it or whatever, and you know the whole thing, um occupying something and taming it, bring it from being rough and polishing it up, and that's exactly what happens. But I just want to share my screen because I want to show the importance of what not to do in these discussions and things like that. So right now I have on my screen a math problem. Okay. Now I want to stress the importance of order of operations, which the underlying thing I'm stressing is rules. Okay, rules are paramount everywhere, law and rules. Because if you try to solve this mathematical problem and you do not follow the rules, you will walk away with the wrong answer. Period. You must follow the rules in order to walk away with the correct answer. And so everyone who, you know, has some experience with math, and whether you're good or not, you should remember the general rule of order of operations, which is abbreviated PEMDAS. I mean, that, you know, that's at least how I remember it in school. So let me just spell it. It's PEMDAS. How many of y'all remember that? You remember that from school?
I do.
PEMDAS.
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Okay, right. Well, yeah, people got different words for the acronym, you know, for to create an acronym, but
Yeah, yeah,
but
you're right.
it's PEMDAS. We used to say it as PEMDAS, and then you could spell it out, you know, and so
Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction.
exactly. And if you do not follow it in this order, you're gonna walk away with the wrong answer, with the wrong answer. So you must do everything in parentheses first, then exponents, then multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, like you just said. And so what I'm just pointing out the importance of definitions, the importance of rules. You have to define things in order to even talk about it, because without a definition, the thing, an undefined thing, doesn't exist. Because in order for something to exist, it has to be well defined. It has to have a border and boundary around it that separates it from everything else. Otherwise, it's just floating in the ocean, in the murky ocean of blah blah. And any conversation based on that is no conversation at all. That is not communication, it's not conversation, and you're gonna go nowhere fast. And that's why a lot of people's conversations don't really go anywhere, because they're talking about ill-defined things. They don't properly define things. So that's an issue, and I'm just pointing that out because this is a real phenomenon everywhere. We have to follow the rules that make something what it is. Oh, and I'm gonna give you another example. Um, if I was to take a round ball, a basketball, I take a basketball and I'm on the basketball court, but instead of dribbling, what we call dribbling and stuff like that, I kick the ball around and everything like that. Here's the question. Am I playing basketball by kicking the ball around? The answer is no, because what defines the game of basketball as the game of basketball is its rules. Okay, so if I pick up the ball and just run from one end of the court to the other, am I playing basketball? No, I'm not, because I'm not following the rules of basketball. So rules and law and definition, everything is paramount. And anybody that says otherwise or try to advocate otherwise, they're promoting chaos. That's it, point blank. So, and we can't do that.
You prove my point, Ujawu, because when I say when you know, my example was the trust, but you know, you also take the root word culture and go with cup. You know, why invent the wheel? Reinvent the wheel. You know, you look at the Hebrew Israelites, the Christians, the Muslims. You know, even though some of their ideas sound like blah blah, they coagulate around that idea and create rules and create structure. You know, and that's what I'm saying, the same, based on that same premise. That's the same thing a trust does, but you know, not saying that the trust should stand out more than Christianity or Islam. I'm just saying all of it is the same basic principle. People coagulating around the idea, and sometimes the idea is a divine principle. Sometimes it's love, you know, the love for family, you know, and wanting to see self-preservation. Go ahead.
So no, let me just comment about that, because you're right. But let me give the nuance that you're dealing with.
Wow.
Because what you're describing is actually the definition of religion, and it's for that reason, the proper definition of religion, because it's for that reason why religion and culture sound synonymous in people's conversations sometimes, because the proper definition of religion is simply a contract. It is an agreement. It is a binding. The word religion comes from the word legare, which means to bind something, to glue it. And so when a group of people create an agreement to do something, that is religion. So every culture has a religion, because in order for the group of people to unify and to dwell and interact with each other, they have an agreement. Whether that agreement is a tacit agreement or not, it's an agreement. It's a contract. Okay, and that contract and an agreement, or that binding instrument, is religion. That is the formal and proper way to define religion. And that could be on the basis of different things now. So I'm not speaking about what the agreement could be about or whatever, but that act of agreeing and coming to an agreement and having a contract that identifies you as one of me, of my kind, and we share this same thing, whatever we name it, that is the agreement. That's religion, and it's a contract. And so, so you're defining it as, I mean, you're in your example, you're using a trust, and that's a good example to demonstrate the proper, how religion come about in a proper sense, in a properly defined sense, religion, because trust is a huge element of communities, of culture, you know, trusting one another, and then building a trust system, a trust community, you know, and we could put it another way, a faith community, because faith comes from the word fides, which means trust. That's real trust, not the belief. I'm separating from belief. I'm using trust in its real sense. And that's what I'm saying. That's how you advance conversation, by defining terms that are going to govern a conversation, or at the very least, try to define them properly. And so,
well, I definitely was out on that conversation, because I thought the brother was trying to say trust as in God we trust as in monetary trust, trust as in generational wealth, trust as in crematistica.
No, he was saying. Remember,
No,
he mentioned.
I was out. I ain't saying you wrong or nothing. I was just saying I thought he was
No, no,
saying
no.
that. But now I'm
I'm
in
just.
on it. Now I see.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm just highlighting some of the key things he was saying so that we understand that that's what it was about, because he mentioned rules. He mentioned, no twerking on social media. He was like, don't bring shame to the community and blah blah blah. These are contracts. These are agreements that are made, among people, and every community has it. And some of them are unconsciously agreed. That's where you could tacit. The tacit agreement are these unconscious agreement. We don't set out to agree, but we end up agreeing, and all that.
That's social. Yeah, true. That's society.
But listen, y'all, I just realized it's 1:00, and I said at the beginning, I'm definitely not going to let this go on for 5-6 hours. So I apologize for seeming to make this end abruptly, but I do want to kind of stick to what I said, and I should have kept up with the time, but it's actually 1 a.m. Right now. And listen, we can always continue these conversations, because we're gonna pop up live and bring these topics up. I like to have these open discussions and teaching moments and learning moments and sharing moments, because we all can learn from each other, and I like the engagement and the forward moving conversation. But I do want to also stress that our channel and what we do, we emphasize a focus on the ancient Egyptian culture and the language, though. So although we talk about these subjects and kind of on the periphery, I always like to tie it into either the language or the culture of Kemet, because that's basically the format and basis of our channel. So I just want to put that out there. But I'm gonna give everybody a chance to give some last words or whatever, because I know I kind of seem like I'm ending this abruptly, but I'll give everybody a chance to give some closing words.
Dua, everybody. It's always a great experience, a learning experience to be here with y'all. So thank you for opening this platform, this space for we to come and to learn with y'all and to share some knowledge. Thank you, and see you the next time.
Okay,
All
I guess I'll go. Yeah, I'll go. Brother Wajal, mine is kind of like another query, but I would like to ask you to look into um, the stuff that I was mentioning about Ludwig Wittgenstein, and I would want you to look into some of the things he said about some of the key words: language games and rules and signs. Some of the very words we use right here tonight. So language games, rules, and signs. And then I would like to further our discussion on this after you and maybe some other people get a thorough little reading of that. It won't take long. It's just be a couple of pages of just straight talk about what rules are, what signs are, and what language games are. And then we could get back to that conversation. But on another tip, because this is Sesh, Medew Netcher. So I want to say, and that's involving language. And Ludwig Wittgenstein is a linguist from the Vienna Circle, which got a lot to do with what's going on today. But I ain't gonna get all into that. But I do want to say this to you, Brother Wajah, and to the panel. I want us to pay attention to something though. If you were to put up the glyph for Kemet, which would be KMT, if you were to put up that glyph, then when we look at the K that everybody draws for the letter K, and then we look at the K that's in the word Kemet. One, I don't want to say what that glyph is for the K. I would like to know what that glyph is for the K. And why is that glyph? You go ahead.
Okay, if I understand your question.
Yeah, and you ain't got to answer right now, brother. I was just, I'm just putting it on the table. because I know you said you was headed out, so I just wanted to put it on the table for further discussion. And I don't want, because I see these comments in the thing said that, last night or some stuff like that. So I want them to think that I'm being like a heckler, because I'm genuinely here. I know you from way back. You just probably don't remember who I am, but go ahead. I'm listening. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, no, I was just gonna say, I want to understand your question, but from what I understand of your question, yeah, we talk about that many times already. So, you can go into the archives,
Okay.
even on the SARS channel. We even wrote a 3 article, like journal type of booklet on this topic as well. The Kim, and you say K, but it's really a bilateral Kim. It's two consonants represented
Okay.
by that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to know what it is. So I could talk about it again another time. But we already, I'm just saying, we already went through it. So if you go through our archives, you'll probably, I don't know the exact name or title of the show, but we went over that about 2 years ago.
Yeah. Cause on that note, even the T, I would like to know what people are saying that is. Like what is that? I don't even want to say what people say it is. I just want to know, like, what is it? Any alternatives to that? Is it any alternative, translations to that other than what is being said about,
Right. Yeah, we go over stuff like that. And just to say something to you, since we're offering some further research into people, I want you to look into Ferdinand de Saussure, the linguist, the French, a Swiss linguist, and his whole take on signs and how that has been adopted by linguists to this very day. So,
okay, hear me on the last name again, brother Ujah.
And I'm probably butchering his name, but I'll spell it for you. It's Saussure, Saussure or Saussure.
Okay.
Ferdinand de
Saucy.
Saussure. Oh, Saucy.
Saucy. Yeah, it's a French name. Saucy.
Okay, well,
That sounds good.
that's how you pronounce it. But I spelled it for you so you can find him. But
Okay, yeah.
he's the one that expounds on signs and the phenomenon of language, like the actual phenomenon language versus what we call in language, a system of signs and everything, the whole nine. So, if you want to, deal with that.
No, I will. I'm definitely on it already. I'm gonna do it. Yeah. That's what I wanted to say for my closing words is that I would like to, since you mentioned that, you like to tie everything, you would like to have everything tied into the Medew language and culture, then I feel like that I just felt like that was appropriate. And I will seek out those papers you said that y'all got on that. I'll see what I can do to find them and see what I can do to come across them.
All right. Anybody else got anything?
Man, I like being over here because you being the deep mind, bro, and not being the deep mind too. But I like to see you do a show, man. This may sound weird, but I want to know how black people, so-called black people that think in this mind, what is their attitude towards white people?
Wow, that's a that's a movie. He said a show.
I just want to hear people opinions about that. I do. I mean, because I have a general, I got an updated opinion about it. Because my opinions certainly evolved, and I can hear in certain people's voices, how they sort of feel about it. But I just want people to vocalize what's in their soul and what's in their minds about that, and see where that particular conversation leads us.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll double back on that one. That's a doozy right there. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think it's just me left. But yeah, I just wanted to say, Dua, for the show, it was very interesting, and we definitely, like, I would personally speak for myself. Definitely appreciate, the questions and all that, and especially also, with new Heru, with the energy that it brings, it might take a while sometimes, but we appreciate you, coming in and sharing your thoughts and all of that. And before I sign off, not because we want to keep Rajao any longer, but because I think it's your first time here, Tiraka. Do you mind like introducing yourself to us so we get to know you a little bit better?
Yeah, this isn't my first time here. I haven't been here in like a week, but this definitely not my first time.
Okay, yeah.
That question sounds like it's loaded, doesn't it? I mean, it's like, man, it has to be, that my real name is Tiarka Raphael Curry. I'm an intellectual. I'm in college. You know, I've been I done studied all sorts of different types of things as far as comparative religion and you know, uh, I don't know. I'm Afrocentric in nature. I know my ethnicity as far as DNA and all that. Uh, but I just think, when I come to like different shows, a lot of things are politically charged, and I think some of us have like some of us need our views updated. I think
Okay.
some of us need our views updated, especially when we found out more history and um, we know better about a lot of things. After you've learned to a certain level, what's your opinion? Let's see, are we on the same level with this? And let's see if my opinion needs to get adjusted. Let's see if yours needs to get adjusted, or can we just respect each other's opinion? But it's just a topic that a lot of people, they stay away from it. And I think it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Okay, Dua, that's nice.
Yeah, and that's a very good we call it aspiration to do, to always take a reassessment of things to see how far we've grown in knowledge, to see if we readjust our views and everything. That's always a good thing to do periodically. And that promotes a paradigm shift, and that's really what we need. We can't stay stuck, you know. Can't
I
stay
had
stuck.
one thing too.
Yeah.
To Dr. Don't let me butcher his name, but I want to see your work, and hopefully this could be a platform where you could maybe share it. Duarte, Dr. Duarte. So want to see some of your work, and that's it. So
It's
Yep.
possible.
All right, we're gonna make it happen. Yep, because this is safe zone, and I'm trying to push conversation forward. Some things people may not like, um, and that's okay. I'm used to that, um, because the intent is there. The good intention is always there. And I realize that some topics that come up are sensitive, either sensitive or controversial or whatever. But there's a rhyme or reason underneath all of it, and I try to, me myself, I try to demonstrate. Demonstration always beats conversation. Emotions is definitely not the medium to use when
indeed,
pursuing knowledge. That is just backwards. You
indeed.
definitely don't want to do that. You have to tame the animal. You got to walk the dog. Don't let the dog walk you.
So I want to, on that note, I want to apologize for yesterday because I, yeah, I emotionally responded when I should have mentally reacted. So,
No,
and I
but
realize that, but
yeah, I don't. Okay, I mean, you apologize, and that's very that's a sign of good character, all across the board. But at the same time, I have to say that some things organically done, there's a lesson in it. There's a teaching moment out of it. And
Mm.
and and that how that unfolded was the moment, was the teaching moment, because prior to that topic coming up and how the whole conversation unfolded, I actually spoke on it. Like, I know it's a long video from last night, but if anybody goes back and is able to watch that long video, you're gonna say like, wow, like, okay, like, hey, I described and I said some things early on in the live session, and then for it to come to fruition and actually happen, man, you can't get any better teaching moments than that. When
Indeed.
when what I'm saying, so I don't think you need to apologize, but apologize. That's still a good.
I do what I want to as a man because I got to man up. And
Yeah,
like,
okay. Well, like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not gonna get in the way of it. So yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So but all right, so I'm gonna close out. So I really appreciate everybody tuned in, and I want to keep these kind of conversations going. Freestyle Friday, but I'm just forewarning you all that we on certain nights we focus more on the language than kind of skating around a bit, like these just open discussions. So we try to do both. So sometimes you may tune in and we going hard on the language, and then sometimes you tune in and it'll be kind of more open with different topics and stuff like that. But we try to anchor them. I try to anchor everything in Kemet though, because if that weren't the case, we might as well start a different channel and just have, just random talks. And even though they could be good things come out of them, but I don't, this one is more narrow focused, more focused on Egyptian culture and everything. And trust, and if anybody knows me, if you've been around me long enough, you'll know I could tie pretty much everything into Kemet, some form of fashion. If you don't believe me, try it.
Brother Wujal, I would like to ask, the next time you put up the mathematics there, I would like to talk about that and
What
introduce
that formula, that the problem I put up?
yeah, not necessarily a problem. I ain't have a single problem with what you said about the you know the
The PEMDAS?
order of operations for
Yeah.
that system for solving that problem. You will arrive at the same answer. But no, I teach my own mathematics, and I have my own formula for mathematics. I have my own order of operations for mathematics,
Okay.
things like that.
We got
So
it.
and it is committed. It's Egyptian. Oh, I wouldn't dare bring nothing to the table on no flaw stuff. So
All right. Okay, so listen. All right, I'm
yeah,
gonna hold
it's,
you.
it's Egyptian
hold-
math. It's Egyptian mathematics, and our Egyptian math is a little bit different than the mathematics that we've been taught in school.
Okay. The methodology, not so much the. I get you. So all right, so I'm gonna hold you to it. We're gonna etch out some time where you can share an
Thank
example.
you, bro. I love to do it. I love.
An example. Yeah.
I
Give an
love to
example of
share
that.
that and love to see what people think about it and see, that'll be a real good peer review for me because I feel like y'all will be my real peers and then I get a real review from what y'all think. That'll be great.
Okay. All right. So with that, y'all, listen, I appreciate the super chat. We just turned the super chat on. So, and a few people use it. Brother Donnie, who's here, Jeremy, and I thought brother June. Yep. June couldn't make it in.
Okay. Hey, John, I know this is gonna be a crazy question. Tell a brother how to use the super chat.
Oh, the super chat. Because I activated it while we were live, everybody would have to refresh their browser, and in the chat box on YouTube, there's an icon under the line where you would type your comment, and so there's a smiley face, and then the middle icon is a $sign, and then there's a poll. There's an icon for polling, and so the middle icon is what just shows up, and that's the super chat. So you can just click it, and you could type a message, and then you can contribute, donate any amount of funds or whatever the case is. That's what the super chat is about. People supporting people's channels and things like that.
Facts. I'll figure it out. I'll do it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, but it's only useful while people are alive. So, so yeah, that's cool. All right. So I'm gonna
Okay.
say Shem Hotep to everyone, which is a way of saying farewell, leaving in satisfied, and Gren Nafir, which is a good night. And I'll see you all next time. Today's Friday. We probably go live again, before Monday. We got a whole day. Saturdays we get busy on the language, the grammar. So everyone who's in the group, I'll see you all tomorrow. And so I'll see y'all next time. So